3. The legacy of Albert Pike. No discussion of Freemasonry is complete without dealing with the significance of Albert Pike. His contribution to modern Scottish Rite Freemasonry is so important that the Supreme Council went on record stating it would be impossible to overestimate the importance of Grand Commander Albert Pike's more than 30 years of work for Scottish Rite. Of primary importance, he edited our rituals of the degrees and compiled morals and dogma. His importance. Those Masonic writers who agreed with his attempt to de-Christianize and then paganize the Lodge have never ceased to refer to Pike as the greatest Mason who ever lived. In 1919, the Masonic textbook referred to Pike as one of the most illustrious Masons in all ages and who was an acknowledged authority upon all Masonic questions. In 1925, Carl Claudy called Pike greatest of the Masons as he was greatest of mystics. In 1970, the occultist A.E. Waite did not hesitate to call Pike a master genius of Masonry. He goes on to say, and these authors state they could fill several pages with Masonic writers who praise Pike as the most important influence on American Masonry. And anyone who has ever read modern Masonic literature has run across the dozens of passages where it is claimed that Pike is a spokesman for the craft. He's the single spokesman, and so forth. You then proceed to the Albert Pike room, where his unpublished works and other artifacts are on display. Pike's personal library is also housed at the temple. After your temple visit, you can see a life-size statue of Pike near the corner of 3rd and Indiana Ave in W. Obviously, not just anyone gets buried by an act of Congress, as the temple reared in his honour and has a statue placed in the nation's capital. Why was this man so honoured? What was he like? What was his background? And there's a few resources here. Mention of that. Okay, so they've put out the Supreme Council in 1986 issued another booklet on Pike, but it's just 40 pages long and only a distillation of 7 sermons on the greatness of Pike. It did not give us much information, or the authors much information. So it's like probably a watered down version of that. They left certain bits out. Okay. So they went and continued their search on Pike, found out about his life. He was born into a pious Christian home. Then looks like his father died, and then financial ruin came upon the family. He was in the Civil War apparently, and he wasn't granted amnesty for whatever errors he made by President Lincoln. Pike fled to Canada in order to escape further punishment. Lincoln was not a Mason and Pike had to run literally for his life. In 1865, when Andrew Johnson became president, since he was a Mason, Pike applied for and received his amnesty papers and went to Memphis, where he called for the Scottish Rite to resume its work. It was during this crucial period of reorganisation after the Civil War, that Albert Pike, rewrote the degrees from the 4th to the 33rd. No one opposed him, and he had a free hand to de-Christianise and then paganise the higher degrees, and so forth. So when he died, he had 2 funerals. One would hope that maybe in death he had finally returned to his father's church, but he was later dug up and reburied at the house of the temple. It was only appropriate that his remains should be removed from Christian burial site, as he hated the Christian church and everything for which it stood. And it goes on about his writings. It was probably while Pike was at Harvard that his faith in Christianity was destroyed by skeptical professors. They then pointed him to the pagan religions of the East as a place where truth could be found. More information. The French connection. Even more information. Now compare what Levi wrote with what Pike wrote in his Morals and Dogma, page 729. Through the evil veil of all the hieratic and mystic allegories of ancient dogmas, under the seal of all the scared writings and ruins of Nineveh or Thebes, on the worn stones of the ancient temples, and on the blackened face of the Sphinx of Assyria or Egypt, in the monstrous or marvellous pictures which the sacred pages of the Vedas translate for the believers of India, in the strange emblems of our old books of alchemy, in the ceremonies of the reception practiced by all the mysteries of mysterious societies, we find traces of doctrine everywhere the same and everywhere carefully hidden. Most of Pike's intricate Kabbalistic reasoning and historical material is lifted right out of Levi's work, so he plagiarized it. A.E. Waite, who wrote a new encyclopedia on Freemasonry, comments, there is also his Morals and Dogma, an undigested compilation from a great number of sources, in which of his own will and intent he has made it impossible to distinguish between that which is his therein and that which has been lifted or plagiarized from the works of others by literal translation and so forth. It comes about in this manner, to cite but one instance, that the brilliant if shallow Philosophia Occulta of Eliphas Levi is foisted on the unwary reader as if it were his own, and occupies scores of pages scattered there and here. Waite is in a position to know, as he took over the Order of the Golden Dawn, an occult society which gathered around the use of magic and the writings of Eliphas, Levi, after Crowley died. Aleister Crowley, another Mason involved in the occult, was the previous leader of the Golden Dawn. Raised in an evangelical Christian home, Plymouth Brethren, he spent his life rebelling against the Christian faith of his parents and committed every sin in the book. He called himself the Beast, painted 666 on his forehead, and committed sodomy and claimed to have sacrificed an infant. Well, we read that his mother said that he was so rebellious, so naughty, that she said he was the beast of Revelations. So he went with it. Believed that he was. Crowley influenced many of the upper class in England and even had the poet Yeats under his spell. He claimed to be the living reincarnation of Eliphas Levi. Okay. Masonic baptism and so forth. On God. Albert Pike believed that the original religion of all people was based upon a belief in the principle of Eastern monism, or one single God, as expressed in philosophic Hinduism. Ultimate reality is one and yet two at the same time, like a coin is one and yet has two sides. This divine principle is seen in the duality of good, evil, darkness, light, yin, yang, male, female, positive, negative, sun, moon, etc. These dualities were not the divine principle, but only a manifestation of it. Little did Pike know that this concept in the 20th century would become the basis of Reverend Moon. It's a Korean. And the Moonies, Reverend Moon's Unification Church. And look what happened with that. For Pike, this principle cannot be described or personalized. To do this is to make false gods. For example, the Bible makes a mistake of personalizing one side of the principle as evil and the other side as good. It then makes the evil side of the principle into Satan and the good side into Jehovah. Thus the biblical God and his counterpart, the devil, do not really exist. Satan is just God spelled backwards. according to Pike. As a matter of fact, all the gods of all religions are just so much Baalim. There is the God, i.e. divine principle, beyond, above and behind all false deities, which are but man writ large. The word God is just a symbol for the impersonal principle or force which underlies all things. There is no personal God, gods, devil or devils, thus every religion is false. Hindus and Buddhists who personalize the principle into deities and demons are as guilty as the Jews and the Christians. The moment you give the principle attributes, you have limited it. To limit it is to corrupt it. Pike claimed that the patriarchs Joseph, Moses and Jesus were actually Hindu in belief. Their Hinduism was covered up and corrupted by those who followed them. Their belief in the divine principle was taken out of the Bible, and it is now hopelessly corrupt. The true teachings of these great men were lost until now. According to Pike, Christianity is not only false, it is positively evil. The following is a summary of what Pike said about Judaism and Christianity. Christianity never taught equality. Christians are hypocrites. Muslims are more trustworthy than Christians. The churches and the priesthood govern men by imaginary terrors. Protestants created a mean and miserable God in the imagination of people. The teachers of Christianity are the most ignorant of the true meaning of what they teach. To superimpose the Bible upon Masonic symbols is absurd. Catholicism is despotism and superstition. The early Christians lost the truth. Christianity came from the Essenes. The Hebrew and Christian God is cruel, bloodthirsty, savage, angry, jealous, revengeful, wavering, irresolute, barbaric, short-sighted, capricious, unjust, vindictive. The Jews are ignorant, narrow-minded and vindictive, with a lower, meaner and more limited idea of God. The New Testament gives only a vulgar faith. Christianity is the religion of hate and persecution. The God that Christians worship is just the pagan gods under a new name, a Baalim. The Jews failed to recognize that the Jehovah was only Plato's God, called the Demiurge. The God of the Old Testament is the author of evil. The God of the Jews and the Christians is but a man personified, a God of human passions. The God of the heathen with but a change of name. The church fathers were the dunces who led primitive Christianity astray by substituting faith for science, reverie for experience, and so forth. All of his claims. Given Pike's blistering attack against the Bible, Judaism and Christianity, is it any wonder that many Jewish and Christian Masons have left the lodge? After all, Masonry is not supposed to take sides in religious controversies. The lodge should not be the place where one's religious convictions are attacked and vilified. Yet the Jew and the Christians are singled out and ridiculed by Pike. Pike's attack against Bible-based religions is so vicious that it is no surprise to find that many people consider him an anti-Semitic and an anti-Christian bigot. How in the world did the Scottish Rite get drawn into his ugly affair? Pike's hatred of Christianity grew out of his exposure to French Masonry. That the French Lodge was violently anti-cleric and anti-Christian is well known. The hatred of French Masons against the church came to full bloom during the French Revolution, when they murdered the clergy, they assaulted the nuns, made soup with communion wafers, and installed a naked woman in the Cathedral of Notre Dame and proclaimed her a goddess of reason. This is the source of Pike's bigotry. Pike was aware that when he denied the existence of the God of the Bible and all the other personal gods such as Allah, he was open to the charge of atheism. Practically speaking, Pike was an atheist because he denied the existence of a personal God who stands outside of an independent from the universe. Pantheism is a religious form of atheism. Pike's occultic beliefs. Humans are divine and thus we are all gods according to Pike. Truth is relative and cultural. Pike stated, what is truth to me, or to Pike, is not true to another. He goes on to explain truth is a matter of when and where you were born. Ultimate reality is mind and not matter. What we see with our senses is an illusion. Only God really exists. Pike denied the existence of evil. Evil is merely apparent, and all is in reality good and perfect. Pike believed in the pre-existence of the soul, in that we came out of God and will go back into God through reincarnation. Astrology is part of the ancient religion of Freemasonry. Buddha was the first master mason. Pike believed in the magic or sorcery that is found in pagan witchcraft and in the occult arts. Morals and Dogma is nothing more than a presentation of the doctrines of classical Hinduism with a mixture of astrology, magic and reincarnation. Instead of being the glory of Pike, Morals and Dogma is really his shame. To steal from the literary works of others, or plagiarism, and to claim it as your own is the exact kind of unethical conduct which is clearly condemned by Masonic ethics. So he was a plagiarist. Pike's Vedic trilogy. In 1872, Pike finished a manuscript entitled Indo-Aryan Deities and Worship as contained in the Rig Veda. This manuscript, which the authors found in the house of the temple, summarized some of the studies of the Vedas, which are the sacred writings of the Hindus. A small limited edition for Masonic leaders was published in 1930 by the Standard Publishing Company in Louisville, Kentucky. The material in the book was plagiarized from German scholars such as Max Muller, Martin Haug, etc.